Western Cape commuters have been left stranded after taxi union Santaco suspended operations. Some MyCiti buses have also been suspended over safety concerns. The stay away by Santaco follows clashes with law enforcement officials on Tuesday over the impounding of minibus taxis. Let's get you the latest on the story this morning. We're joined by Mandla Hermanus, who is the Taxi Council's chairperson in the Western Cape. Mandla, you're joining us on the line. It's great to have you with us for the latest and for a response to those scenes that were coming from the bus terminus in Cape Town, their desperation from commuters, who many will say are the ones who are paying the highest price in the standoff between Santaco and the city.
Yes, absolutely. First of all, I'd like to say that we condemn all acts of violence, and we urge all our members to desist from participating in any activity that might be deemed to be criminal. That's why we did not embark on a march or a protest. We decided to simply pull off our actions, and would urge law enforcement to follow up on anyone who might be found to have participated in acts of criminality. It's very sad what is happening in the province, but it's been happening for quite a while. For example, we've had over 6,000 of our taxis being impounded in the last 6 months by the city of Cape Town. It has resulted in over 488 taxis being repossessed by, that is just one of the financing houses that we use when we acquire these vehicles. Currently, that same institution is sitting with a book of 309 taxis that are due for repossession as we speak. So it's hitting us very hard, and it also has a detrimental effect to the people that we transport, because when you impound 6,000 vehicles, that is disrupting the way in which we are able to provide this service to our commuters.
Clearly, the calls by Santaco to desist from violence is falling on deaf ears, Mandla. We're seeing incredible scenes of buses being torched, infrastructure being damaged. That violence is going ahead despite this call by Santaco.
Yes, we are making the call, and we are not sure if the people who are doing that are actually the same taxi operators, because we are clear that the drivers, what they did yesterday was simply to drive the taxis. You would have seen on social media. Taxis were pulled out of their ranks. Those drivers were not responsible for any acts of violence. It was to drive out of the ranks and went home with our vehicles. So until people are arrested, and those who are arrested are established to be taxi operators, then if that happens, then the full might of the law must apply to those individuals. But we are not sure if the people who are burning buses and stoning cars are actually taxi operators, because taxi operators, in the main, they also use private cars to go about their business. So the risk of stoning their own cars is very high if they were to engage in those activities. There are always criminal elements who are ready and waiting when they hear that there will be a taxi strike of any sort. Even before the strike, there were already fake news on social media saying Kata and Kodeta is striking, there will be no transport, even before we had the general meeting that we had yesterday.
Mandla, this tit-for-tat between the city of Cape Town and taxi operators is continuing. I mean, JP Smith yesterday from the Western Cape government saying that for every bus that is torched, the city will continue to impound several more vehicles. Do these kinds of statements make it even harder to get back to the negotiating table when impounding is really the issue at hand here?
Absolutely, absolutely. What has to happen, I think there's a fundamental shift that has to happen within the government of the Western Cape in relation to what is our role as the minibus taxi industry in the province. There has to be an appreciation that we are providing an essential service that government should be providing, by the way, because the public transport is a government responsibility. And we are doing that, investing our own money. So what we would expect from government is to say, here are people putting in their own money providing a service that we as government should be providing, how do we assist them to ensure that the service that they provide is of the quality that we would expect if we were providing it as government, instead of having a vendetta, as if actually we are treated as purely profit-driven commercial enterprise that adds no value to the socio-economic conditions of the province.
And commuters are sitting on the sidelines, Mandla, watching all of this play out. It has nothing to do with them, and yet they are the ones bearing the brunt. Again, if we can bring up those visuals of a crowded bus terminus in the city of Cape Town, people climbing through windows, pushing each other out of the way, trying to force their ways into the last buses to try and find a way to get home. We saw people walking along the N2 just to try and get home. Many people on social media reporting that their children are still not back from school. Parents going out to the highway to look for their children to see if they are one of those people walking. Mandla, surely this is going to have a major impact on the relationship between taxis and commuters, and there will be a trust deficit here. And
again, for that we have to blame the city of Cape Town. These things, they happen on a daily basis. It's just that when a taxi is impounded, there are no cameras, no videos. Because this is done, you can imagine, if a month 1,000 taxis are impounded, every taxi is not impounded at the rank. They are impounded when they are on the road carrying passengers. Those passengers are always left on the side of the road, and they have to look for alternative transport, arrive late at work. They get warnings. Some, they even get fired, because the people we transport are the poorest of the poor, whose jobs are always at risk. School children, they get dropped off on the side of the road every time a taxi is being impounded. There was even an incident where the commuters complained to the law enforcement officials to say, how can you do this? How are we going to get home? How are we going to get to work? What happened in that incident? 2 of those commuters were actually arrested for voicing their concerns about being left on the side of the road. So this violence on the taxi industry is happening on a day-to-day basis. It's as if the government of the Western Cape does not want us on the roads.
That's really important perspective, Mandla. What is it going to take to get around the negotiating table again?
Again, like I said before, there has to be a fundamental shift. We have to be recognized as people who are providing an essential service to thousands and thousands of people from the poorest of the communities in the Western Cape. And therefore, we need the city of Cape Town and the provincial government to work with us to improve the quality of the service that we provide, because we are investing our own funds in order to provide this service. All we've been asking for is to say, city of Cape Town, please assist us, recognize our role, so that we change the behavior of our drivers, punish the drivers when they transgress. Don't let the target be the actual taxi that is providing a service, because you are every time you impound a taxi, you are shutting down a business. J.P. Smith, as the MNC for community safety, would never close down a traffic center, for example, because one traffic official reported on duty under the influence of alcohol, for example. He would deal with that particular traffic officer, but the business of the traffic center would continue. Same if a nurse went to work under the influence. That clinic is not going to be shut down because there's a nurse who came to work under the influence of alcohol. Rather, that nurse will be dealt with because there's a recognition that the clinic itself plays a very critical role, So that recognition is not there. We are seen as purely profit-driven commercial enterprises that must be held to the very highest standards. And if one are unable to meet those standards, we must get the highest and the harshest punishment possible.
Mandla Hermanus, let me thank you for your time this morning. Santaco's Western Cape chairperson there with some important context around the challenges that the industry as well does face insofar as vehicle impounding is concerned. Certainly a story that is far from over, and we've got our eyes on the latest developments.